Hi folks, welcome to another STEMforce tutorial from KIOSC. Today we are working in Tinkercad. Today we're going to look at how to navigate the work plane, edit the grid, manipulate a 3D object, duplicate a 3D object, and group different 3D objects. So when you open Tinkercad, you'll have what's called the work plane. So that's the area where you build your models. It's got a grid here, and you can see the grid is made up of different sized squares. The small ones are 1 mil, the large ones are 10 mil. How we navigate in Tinkercad is with a right mouse click to pan and rotate the workspace. We can zoom in with our scroll wheel back and forth. If you middle mouse down and click, you can drag the whole work plane around. That can be useful sometimes when you lose models or you've dragged them in and they haven't landed where you wanted them to. The most useful feature in terms of navigation, I think, is the view cube here. So it's got 6 sides. You can scroll between the different sides by clicking the arrows. You can just click and drag on it as well if you want to position your model. It also has a cool little feature here where you can zoom into a particular angle of the cube. If you go down the bottom here, we have the option to change up the view from perspective to orthographic. So this view here gives us an isometric, and that's very useful when you're doing fine work and moving features from your top, front, and side. I use that all the time. To exit out of orthographic, just click the button here and it'll say switch to perspective. You can also zoom in here with plus and minus buttons. I'm going to drag in an object from my part collection just so we can get a little handle on how to focus in and manipulate things. So I've just dragged this in. This has been made from basic shapes. If you want to edit an object, you need to left mouse click and drag a selection of the object, or you can just left mouse click it. So as soon as you click it, it's going to give you all these different widgets which allow you to manipulate it. The first one we'll look at is the move widget. So that is the black arrow here. That just allows you to go up and down. And you'll notice when you change the grid snap, so for example to 1 mil, and you manipulate this move black arrow here, you will move in 1 mil increments. So I'm currently on 0.1, but if I change it to 1, I'm going to move in 1 mil steps. It's probably the most used feature for me on the grid snap, 1 mil. You'll notice that the circles here, the squares here are 1 mil. You've also got your rotating arrows, so you can rotate in the Z-axis, you can rotate in the X-axis, and you can rotate in the Y-axis. If I want to focus in on my cube here, I can press this button, zooms in on it. There's a shortcut as well, so if you press Ctrl F, you can also focus in. So I'm going to now go over how to group objects, how to hide them, and we'll look at some duplicating, pasting as well. So I'm going to grab the lid to put on top of this box. Now you'll notice I'm in the snap, so I should just be able to snap that in the middle. And if I go into my front view, I can drag that and snap that in place. So if I want to move this as a group, I can left mouse click and drag. And if I press on the front view, I can move it like so. If I just click the lid, I'm just going to be moving the lid. So grouping objects will be useful if I wanted to cover this grid in crates, for example. So to group, left mouse click and drag, and you've got a group button here, or you can press Ctrl G as a shortcut. And now that's grouped, I can do a copy and paste. So up the top, you've got the option to copy here, and then this button will paste it. You'll notice when you paste, it doesn't actually paste the object inside the original. It pastes it slightly off center. So you may find that not so useful. If you want to paste it in the center, you can select it and you can press Ctrl D. When you press Ctrl D, the crate that you've pasted sits inside, exactly the same spot as the other one. So that is really useful. For example, if you wanted to make a prop for a little scene and have those crates stacked on top. So you could group those two, and then you could do the same thing. Duplicate it again. So copying and pasting, copy, paste. If you want to duplicate and keep it in the same place, Ctrl D. And then you can use the arrows on your keyboard to tap that into place. There's another option to copy and paste. So I'm going to group these ones again. Ctrl G, I'll press the button. I'm going to hold down Alt, and when I click this black arrow, it creates a duplicate. So you can see how quickly and easily you can make some pretty interesting designs. Now it has done something a bit funny here where it's kind of joined the crates, which looks cool, but that might not be what you want. So if you want to go back to the original, you could just ungroup. So here we have the ungroup button, and then you get that nice detailed line back in the middle. If we keep ungrouping, then we will actually be able to get to just the individual lid. So you may want to say do something like this and have a bit more, variety in your prop design, something like that. I'll also point out here you have the undo button. So like most programs, Ctrl Z will get you back, but also the arrow is another way to quickly undo different things you've done in the work plane. So next up, I will show you guys how to create some extra details on this crate. So we'll go to our basic shapes. Here we have a whole series of different things you can use, and a lot of them have different options inside to edit. So I'm just going to add a couple of circular rivets to the top here. So I usually find when I'm bringing in new shapes, I'll just change it to the orthographic, and that way you can see if you're dragging something and it's inside the grid. So when I went and made this crate, I actually changed up these different features. So you can see that this actually reduces the sides, but if I drag it to the top, it increases them, and that makes for a better 3D print and a better looking 3D model in the program. If I play with the segments, I can't actually see that doing anything, but I'm going to drag it up anyway. The bevel will give you a curved edge. That's not what I want, so I'm just going to leave that off. Now, to scale your shape. These white cubes indicate that you can scale. There's a few ways you can do that. Similar to Photoshop and Illustrator, if you are scaling something and you hold Shift, then that will maintain the proportions of that shape. If you don't hold Shift, then you're going to get some distortion with your shape. If you want to scale from the outside in to the middle, you can hold Alt and Shift, and if you push that down, it'll scale into that center point. Very useful feature. The other thing I'll point out is that you can edit the dimensions of this basic shape by clicking in the dialog box here. So I'm going to change this up to 1 mil. I can press Tab to move to the next feature. Press 1 again. And I might just drag that back into the center. Notice how I'm using the grid snap to change the snapping amount. So it's now on 0.5, so you can hit that middle line of the grid. It's a 1 mil cube. This is a 10 by 10 cube. So I need to change the height of this thing. So I'll go into my front orthographic and I can left mouse click and drag that one down. And I think that's going to work pretty well. So I'll just drag this over here. Go into my front. Click this one, drag it up, back to front, sorry, top. When you're dealing with really small shapes like this, you actually need to get onto it and click, anywhere that's not one of those widgets so that it doesn't distort. So I'm going to place one here, and then I'm going to hold Alt and Shift and drag another one and line it up at the corner. I want to do the same thing on this side, so I'm going to left mouse click, hold Shift, left mouse click, group those two. Now to copy it onto the other side, I'm going to hold Alt, Shift, left mouse click and drag and knock that into place. If I want to group these, I can do so here. Control G. May as well change the color while I'm at it. And then I'll group it with the lid. So if I ungroup the crate, I can now access the rivets and the lid here and group those. That concludes the tutorial, guys. So we've taken a look at navigation, editing the grid, manipulating objects, duplicating objects, and grouping. Thanks for tuning in. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.